I can't believe it is Thursday already, guys. We are close to the weekend, so welcome everybody to this week's final edition of the Israel Brief with me, Rolene Marks, where we take a look every Monday to Thursday at those top stories making headlines in Israel. And we do it in partnership with these guys, Lay of the Land. It is Thursday, which means I've got your Menches and your morons, or because we have a very short list today, we've got one Mensch and one moron. So guys, keeping it efficient. If I can ask, please can you get your nominations to me by a Wednesday so that I don't miss any in the Thursday broadcast. We've got your audience questions, and we've got your top stories. So let's get into it. Today is day 776 since the 7th of October. And as we have said from the very, very beginning, we still have hostages whose remains are being held captive by Hamas in Gaza. 3 hostages, 3 brothers who need to become home to be laid to rest. Oh, my grammar today is absolutely shocking. What we have heard is that the casket of Joshua Molel landed in Tanzania, and he has been laid to rest in his native country, surrounded by the people that loved him the most. And our thoughts and our prayers are with the people of Tanzania, and especially the family and loved ones of Joshua Molel. May his memory be for a blessing. So let's take a look at those top stories, and quite a shocking story breaking last night, and news that the Mossad had exposed the network called the Hamas Octopus that was operating throughout Europe. So Hamas, with the cooperation of European law enforcement and intelligence officers, especially in countries like Austria and Germany, helped expose this network in cities across Europe. This led to the seizure of all kinds of weapons, including the arrest of several operatives. Now, also exposed is the fact that Hamas is potentially using Turkey as a base. It is very convenient for them. Turkey, who has hostile relations with the state of Israel, and while I'm not saying that Turkey are giving them shelter, Hamas operatives see Turkey as a safe and convenient possible base. Just absolutely horrific, and thank you to the vigilance of our Mossad agents. Now, the next story contains scenes of sexual violence, so if you are very sensitive and are triggered, please note that I will be speaking about sexual violence as endured by one of the hostages. Last night, in a harrowing interview with Israel's Channel 12, former hostage Guy Gilboa Dalal became the second male hostage to go on the record and speak of accounts of sexual violence while he was held captive by Hamas in Gaza. I'm going to read to you in Guy's own words. And the reason that I am speaking about this is because we live in a time where there is so much denial of the atrocities of the 7th of October and denials of the crimes of sexual violence committed against the victims of that day, as well as our hostages. I want to make sure that we honor the courage of the survivors who are telling their stories, that we bear witness and become the voices of those whose voices have been silenced forever. So this is Guy in his own words. He speaks about having a shower. He says, "He lets me shower, and when I finish the shower, he drags me out and does not let me put on my clothes. He takes me back to their room and then throws me into one of the armchairs. He starts touching my whole body. I froze. I told him, 'You're joking, right? That's forbidden in Islam.' He put a gun to my head and a knife to my throat. He told me if I tell anyone about it, he will kill me." Last week we heard from Ron Braslavsky about his horrific experience with sexual assault, sexual violence at the hands of Hamas. The IDF has conducted a series of airstrikes across the Gaza Strip. This follows an attack on IDF troops by members of Hamas inside the Green Line. And while no IDF troops were hurt, this is a clear violation of the ceasefire agreement. Now, the IDF struck targets across Gaza City and Khan Yunis. Earlier today, the IDF exposed how they had uncovered a missile launcher in the eastern part of the Yellow Line. This is the buffer zone area that the IDF control inside the Gaza Strip. The missile launcher that could house 8 rockets was already preloaded with 4 rockets that were ready for launch. And they also uncovered a cache of weapons as well as grenades and other munitions very close by. Meanwhile, the United States has signaled its support for Israel's right to conduct airstrikes in response to an attack on IDF troops. And finally, the former hostages, with the exception of Ron Braslavsky, who does not feel strong enough to go to the United States, are in the USA, where they are scheduled to meet with President Trump a little later today. Now, ahead of the meeting with the American president, Zvika Moore, who is the father of former hostage Eitan Moore, has spoken about his son's horrific ordeal in captivity, saying that they starved him to the point where he had no strength to even sit up. They gave him 3 small spoons of rice every day for months and threw him in the basement. Eitan was taken captive along with his brother Yair, and their brave family, including another brother, fought for their release for well over 2 years. Zvika Moore also said that he will be giving the president the gift of a dreidel. Now, we are fast approaching Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, and some of you might be familiar with a dreidel, which is traditionally played with by Jewish children. You spin the dreidel, and Zvika said that he wants to give this as a present to the president, that he can play with his grandchildren and remember the importance of the link and the chain of generations. So those are our top stories, guys. I'm a little bit exhausted today, so forgive me for falling over my words a little bit, but not too exhausted to take your audience question. And it comes from Lindy in South Africa, who says, what has happened to Emily Hand? Now, if you recall, Emily Hand was the little girl who had dual Irish and Israeli citizenship. She was taken captive from Kibbutz Be'eri. We can't forget the absolutely devastating footage of her father, Thomas, saying he would rather his daughter had been killed than taken hostage because of the way that Hamas treat their hostages, and then his pure joy and elation at finding out she was still alive. And I can't forget the former Tasak from Ireland, who said, we have found Emily after she was released in that initial first hostage deal. I'll never forget that, because I remember thinking to myself, she's not a sock, we didn't find her. She was released in a hostage deal. It's not a sock, you didn't just find her. Jeez, like it. Anyway, well, to answer your question, Lindy, we haven't heard much other than she's rebuilding her life, she's going on with her life. She is starting to recover, back at school, using her voice, speaking again for the first couple of weeks since being released. She whispered a lot because they were not allowed to speak in captivity in Gaza. And for a lot of our hostages, they really want to go back to a life of relative anonymity. And speaking of hostages, If you remember Avera Mengistu, Avera was an Ethiopian Israeli who had been held captive by Hamas for over 10 years. He had wandered into the Gaza area 10 years ago and taken captive. And today is the Ethiopian Festival of Sigd that celebrates the long movement of Ethiopian Jews from Ethiopia to Israel, to the Promised Land. And we saw a lovely picture of Avera's father blessing his son on Sigd. Very, very moving to see that. So I hope that answers your question, Lindy. And now, guys, to your Menches and your morons. So I'm going to take a look at the moron of the week. And this came in from a few people. The Minister of International Relations for South Africa, Ronald Lamola, and this absolute travesty of a flight of Palestinians that landed last week that nobody knew about, and his massive U-turn now saying last week we must welcome them with open arms because we're all about humanitarianism, and then after the backlash saying no, we can't have them here because that is ethnic cleansing. What a moron, what an absolute tool. And our mentions of the week are the hostage families for writing a beautiful letter to the family of Joshua Molel, all signing it, expressing their condolences and their great pain at the murder of Joshua, and that they were glad that he could finally be laid to rest in peace. So guys, that's it from me for this week. Don't forget that before you join me on Monday, you can visit our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our YouTube channel is right here at the Israel Brief. So if you like our content, please hit that red subscribe button. We are on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks, Substack at Rolene Marks. Always forget one. Oh yes, Instagram at Rolene_Marks and Facebook at Lottel Site. So guys, I'm going to use this weekend to recover my brain. But in the meantime, I wish you all a wonderful weekend with much love from me to you and to yours. And Shabbat Shalom. And I'll catch you again on Monday. Bye for now.